Good afternoon, everyone. This is Andy Jacob with DotCom Magazine. Today, I'm absolutely delighted to have Andrea Pass from the Andrea Pass Public Relations Agency joining us for a wonderful talk about public relations. And in today's world, nothing's more important than public relations. Isn't that right, Andrea?
Andy, you hit the nail on the head. The time is now to make sure your company, your product, your service is in the press. Don't wait.
That's awesome. Now, let me just talk about you just for a little bit. You've been doing this for 30 years. You must have started when you were in kindergarten, obviously.
Oh, you're too kind.
Thank you. And you have such an amazing background. When I looked at your resume and looked at all the companies that you've helped, you've done such great jobs for everyone, including the people that you're currently working with. Can you just tell us a little bit about your agency and tell us a little bit about public relations?
Well, public relations, it's funny how you find your path in life. And as a kid and in high school, I was always the PR chair of all the committees. I was the one writing the press releases and putting the press releases in an envelope and mailing it to the press, and then seeing my press release get picked up in the local newspaper or the local magazine or what have you. And then in college it continued, but I majored in radio, TV, film. I was going to be a TV broadcaster. I was going to be the next Dan Rather. So I went to CBS right after I graduated Glassboro State College in New Jersey, and I applied for a job. But in those days, and I'm starting to date myself, women had to take a typing test. And it didn't matter how bright you were, what your degree was, women who came in had to take a typing test. So I went, took the typing test, and I was a fast typer, still am to this day, and got hired by Women's Day magazine, which was owned by CBS. There was a freeze in the broadcast area. Long story short, I kind of moved up. I was doing advertising and trafficking. And once the freeze got lifted, I got a job in PR for the CBS radio division nationally, and had a wonderful opportunity to work on a young adult network, on the news network, on things with CBS Sports. Very exciting. Even interviewed to be one of Dan Rather's assistants. And when I got called back for the second interview, and he didn't conduct the interviews, when I got called back, I said, I don't want to be anyone's assistant. I want to get work done. And so I realized that I had this love for PR. I was good at it. I love to talk to the press and bring a story to the press and see that come to fruition. So I ended up moving on to a bunch of PR firms over the years and branched out on my own to form Andrea Pass Public Relations about 2 years ago. And it's wonderful. I love being a solopreneur, and I love creating and implementing public relations campaigns for clients across the country.
That's wonderful. And I'm sure that all of those great relationships that you've been able to build throughout the years come in very handy working on behalf of your clients right now.
And it's really twofold, because when I started my agency, I had a connection, many connections. People obviously knew me, and people were saying to me, Andrea, go out on your own. We want to work with you. You know, let us know when you start your own firm. So when I started my own firm, within a few days, I already had my first client, because people knew me and wanted to work with me. And most of my clients are people who I've known for years and years and years, or people I've known who referred me to someone else. So it's very rare, and I've had that rarity that there's someone who never knew me, never heard about me, but read about me or listened to one of my lectures who reach out. But for a majority of my business, it's through those relationships, which are so key, especially in our current times, to develop a rapport with people and be honest and truthful, and those relationships grow over years and over time. So I'm really excited about that, and having worked on such unique campaigns over the years, and unique campaigns even today.
That's awesome. So before we take a little bit deeper dive, we will have some younger entrepreneurs, Andrea, that will be watching this show. And sometimes these younger entrepreneurs, I'm going to ask a rhetorical question, but I think it's good to get it out into the airwaves. What's the difference between public relations for them and advertising? If you could quickly just explain that for a young entrepreneur coming into the business world for their new startup or business, what's the differentiation?
And this really pertains to everyone, because as I'm talking to people, whether you're a younger entrepreneur or you've been around for a while, PR is often the most misunderstood of the elements of marketing. So for everybody, it's important to understand public relations builds trust. So in public relations, we are looking for earned media coverage, free, for the most part, media coverage in the press. And by having that, we are in essence securing editorial endorsement, editorial coverage of you as an entrepreneur or your business or your service or your book or your consumer product or what have you. In advertising, you're paying for that. You're paying for your ad. You know it's going to run on this page of this magazine or newspaper, or on this cover of this blog, or in this TV broadcast, podcast, radio broadcast. So it's different because in advertising, you're paying for it, you control the content. In PR, you don't control the content. That is up to the editor, producer, reporter, interviewer. So everything is on the record when you're doing an interview. I'm not one of these people who says, oh, say off the record. No, everything's on the record. Once you are with that person and that recording is happening, it's on the record. So be honest, because public relations builds that trust and drives brand awareness in a way that advertising can't. Advertising is very expensive. You want a full page color ad in a glossy magazine, you're going to pay tens of thousands of dollars for that. In public relations, you can have a campaign for a full year for the amount of one glossy advertisement. So public relations is a service. It's not guaranteed. My job is to create a campaign, to create pitches, to reach out to the media, drive that media to the client, get that interview to happen, and hopefully that interview or product review or book review will appear, share that with the client, and that client can then in turn use it on their website, use it in your social media. Many times that interview or that product review will be evergreen. Use it again and again. The date doesn't necessarily matter. In advertising, you might have the same ad run a bunch of times, but your audience might get sick of that ad, so you are going to change that up. So public relations builds that trust in a different way. Advertising is paid, guaranteed placement.
That's awesome. And that's a great primer for people watching this. And your success is self-evident. Is there ever a time when somebody comes to you and says, Andrea, I really need some representation, and you look at what they're doing and it just, let's say, doesn't pass the sniff test, and maybe you say, you know, I can't help you for whatever reason? How does that work out?
I have to tell you, when I first started my business a few years ago, and as I started spreading the word, a woman I had gone to college with, and I hadn't been in touch with her in many, many, many years. You have to talk to my boss. This is great. You have to talk to him. So she connects us, and we're talking, and he's immediately calling me Ann and Hun. I just don't do, my name is Andrea. You know, you go by Andy, but if you went by Andrew, you would want people to call you Andrew. So I would prefer people call me Andrea. That is my name. I'm not Hun. So, okay, that started with the fingernails on a chalkboard for me. And then he had a product which helped you lose weight. It was to help you fast. So he sent me a sample of this box of items. I didn't quite understand how medically eating these particular items was considered a fast. And I couldn't find proof as I researched it. And there was no proof of the research on his website either. But one of the items in the box was something that was going to force your body to release things. And I said, wait a minute, I'm a little confused here. And that shouldn't have been in the box. Well, it's in the box. And I said, something's not right. I didn't feel comfortable. And, you know, we talked for a little bit and the timing wasn't right. And I said, oh no, I understand, because I didn't want to say no to him. And a few months later, he called me again and he says, we're ready to work together. I'm going to give you this amount of money, which was nowhere near what I was asking for. and you're going to get press. And if you keep working, I'll give you that amount of money again. And I said, well, that's not the way I work. And he says, you could piggyback me on another client. Oh, no, 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 no. Each client gets an effort from me. I don't piggyback clients. And I just said to him, I wish you all the best. I'm just not thinking it's going to work right now, but you please stay in touch. And I was very positive and very kind to him, but I'm very pleased that I didn't go down that road or work with that person. So everyone I work with, we develop this great relationship and they know I'm going to get the job done. And if they're looking for something specific and there's a reason we can't secure that specific interview, I communicate effectively on why we can't secure that particular interview. So what I'm proud of is my honesty, my integrity, and my ability to get things to happen.
Well, you do it. It seems like it's a delicate balance because you have these media people that you've developed these relationships with over many years. And you want to make sure that when you come to them with something, it's something good, it's something important, it's something newsworthy, it's something worth their time to cover. And I would imagine as a PR expert, if you come to these media people with things like you just mentioned, the diet program that didn't pass your mustard, if you bring them things that are not good, they're going to stop listening to you and maybe not even take your call anymore. Is that the way it works?
I think that as a professional publicist, one of the things that has changed in our world, especially over the last few months, is contacts we would have had for years and years are no longer employed at that media outlet. Some of them have just left the category of press, journalism altogether. So every day, an effective public relations person has to go out and seek new relationships or new contacts for each story. And sometimes I find that a story could be a one and done. I work with that person in that market one time and I might never work with that person again, which is okay, as long as I'm getting the job done for the client. So even in Andrea Pass Public Relations, in my world, I joke that to be in PR, you have to be a PI. I'm a private investigator. Every day I'm reading and learning and finding new media outlets to share information about my clients as appropriate. So it's always, no 2 days are the same in the world of public relations. And there's never a guarantee something's happening. Today I had a client interviewed on a broadcast a few weeks ago, and I touched base with the host and the producer. When is that going to air? Well, it's airing in 3 weeks. So there's a lead time. Sometimes you'll record something or you'll do an interview and it'll appear the next day. I had a client that it was interviewed by USA Today. It appeared 2 days later. I had a client who the reporter had asked for a quote. There was no interview, so it was all done via email. I got the quote. I didn't know if the reporter would accept it. And then about 2 weeks later, I was doing a search and I found out it had been picked up by Yahoo and all of these other outlets. So you just don't know sometimes when a story will appear, but public relations is an ongoing process and a process that should be part of your marketing mix to increase your brand awareness, to keep your reputation positive and out there, and to drive sales. So there are so many values to public relations, and I get so cliche when I say you've got to be in it to win it.
I love it. You absolutely do, and you are. So, Andrea, when you mentioned what's happened here over the past few months, obviously we have the worldwide pandemic. How has PR or public relations changed? What can you tell our people about what they should be doing now, since the world's changed quite dramatically over the past number of months? Is there some bonus information that you can give for our people watching this, sort of to wrap their heads around how to handle this for their own businesses?
Exactly. I think that we have to understand that as Americans, we are consuming around 11 hours a day of media, whether we're reading a newspaper or a magazine, or we're watching TV, radio show, podcast, blog, getting a news article through social media. It's amazing how much we absorb in a day. So if your competition is out there and being interviewed and part of stories. Why aren't you? So now is the time. Now meaning now, today, anytime, not let's wait and see what happens with the pandemic. It's one thing if you're a restaurant and you were having people come to your restaurant, but now you've had to, here's that word, pivot, and have takeout. Okay, so what is special about your takeout menu? What are you doing to support the community? What's something new and meaty that you can offer that's newsworthy? So that's my job, to work with the client to come up with what is newsworthy. I was talking to a client this morning who's a financial advisor. And I said, okay, what do families do to save up for college? In today's world, people have been let go, furloughed. We know how high our unemployment rate, unfortunately, is. People are tapping into their retirement accounts. What are some tips for people that need to put money away to be able to afford college at one point for their children, or to save for that rainy day, or to save for the day that we can take a vacation? These are some of the things a financial advisor will offer. And it's that category of, okay, what do we do? How do we make ends meet? And they weren't looking at it from that intricate picture. They were looking at such a big picture. And I said, let's narrow it down. Let's talk about a few topics and give me tips, because the media loves tips. So for your audience, certainly in our growing .com world, what are the tips that you could offer? How are you trying to increase your sales? But let's not make it a hard pitch. Let's educate, let's inform, let's create a relationship that you are the financial advisor they should turn to. You are the real estate agent they should turn to. Your cooking product is the cooking product that's going to make life easier in the kitchen, or your book is that item that you should be reading on your back deck when you're relaxing this summer.
This is great advice. And this goes along with the fact that a lot of people think when they call a public relations company that they have to come up with all the stuff themselves. But what I'm hearing is a good public relations company like Andrea Pass PR or Public Relations, you work with the clients to come up with the things that you know that the media are going to want to digest and eat and put out there for your clients, right?
Exactly. A number of years ago, a client had a new cookware line. Well, I wasn't going to be able to get the cookware line on TV. That's product. That's a commercial. Take out an ad. I said, don't you have a cookbook to go along with this? Could you make a cookbook? Well, lo and behold, they made a series of cookbooks. We had our on-air talent on the cover of the cookbooks. I pitched the on-air talent and the cookbook author to do demonstrations in studio. Because how many times we're all looking at cooking demonstration when we're watching TV. And when she was doing the cooking demonstration and talking about her book, of course, what products was she using? That brand of cookware that she was promoting. So that worked in. She'd be scrambling an egg, or she'd be making something on the stove, and she'd say, well, you know, oh, by the way, I'm using, and she'd say the name of the cookware. So that was one way. I work with a lot of companies in the as seen on TV products industry, direct response television industry. And many years ago, I started doing pitch-a-thons. We would go to different communities around the country, major cities, and we would hold Shark Tank-ish pitches. And the inventors had a few minutes to come in. You know, I'm Andrea, I'm from New Jersey, and I invented the Stay Cool water bottle. And they would explain why. And if that company was interested in signing a licensing agreement with the inventor, then that was fabulous, gave me even more news. But the fact that they went to that town and held a pitch-a-thon, that was news, and that got those clients in the press and created a strong positive reputation. So it's up to your PR person to talk to you, tell you this will work, this won't work, can you give me the answer to this? It's a constant, and no 2 days are the same. No two stories are the same, no two media outlets are the same.
That's awesome. Let's talk about process, because a lot of people will see this and they'll say, hey, Andrea's, amazing. I reach out to Andrea. What's the process to get you hired? In other words, is there a phone call where you go over the ideas? Do you offer some value added advice at no charge? Or, how does it all work? What's your process when you have someone call you and say, Andrea, I've seen what you're doing for your other clients. You're amazing. I want to get the same type of PR that they're getting. How do you handle your process to get new clients onboarded?
It's very interesting because I think Andrea Pass Public Relations, I probably do things differently than other PR firms. There are other PR firms that feel, oh, I need a ramp up time. I'll start working with you and I'll spend the first 3 weeks writing this, writing that, writing this. No, my ramp up is about an hour. To me, if someone reaches out to me and we connect, we have a conversation, we talk about the topic, I explain the approach that I would take, I write a letter of agreement, and we get started. I'm not one of these people who pussyfoot around. Let's do the work. So, for instance, just yesterday, I had a call with someone who I've known for a while. I found the person because someone I knew in my hometown posted something on their Facebook page. I started following the other Facebook page. I started connecting with this person, actually invited her to be on a panel for an organization I'm in. We developed this rapport. I never expected to have business from her. I just thought that she was fascinating. And she says, do you know anyone who would take on this PR project? And I said, well, me. And so we had a conversation and I said, this is what I'm going to need. I'm going to need your bio, your headshot, this video clip that we want to promote, the other person who was involved in this video clip, who was a psychotherapist, behavioral therapist. I said, so I need that. And I need to know I can reach you and I'll get started. So each situation is going to be different. I work on a monthly retainer basis, which is how PR people work. PR people who work per placement, they're not real public relations people. They're usually finding things that cost money and they're not effectively doing public relations for you. A reputable public relations person is going to be able to write the pitch and start pitching and not just throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. It's an effective, thought out method of doing things, even in our COVID-19 world. So another example is one of my clients, I was trying to get television coverage for this client, and I will be trying to get television coverage for this client moving forward. But for the past 2 weeks, I've been calling and calling and calling newsrooms. Well, newsrooms aren't really there anymore. They are remote. But by me calling, I'm at least finding a new email address or a new direction to reach people. And the few that answer are being kind enough to have a conversation with me. So it just depends. But because of the fact that I know how to write the email and I know how to pick up the telephone, and so many public relations people don't pick up the phone. And I think that by picking up the phone, you establish a relationship and you find out something different about a person that you didn't know before. So I had a conversation with someone a few days ago, and I don't know how it came up, and he said, you sound like you're from New York. And even though I have my New York picture here in the background, I'm a Jersey girl through and through. And so we've spoken probably 4 times since, and he calls me Jersey girl now, and that's great. It created a bond between the two of us. But a reputable public relations person is going to get the job done. We do it on a monthly retainer basis. We are in constant communication with the client. As soon as a placement comes out, we are forwarding that placement to the client, explaining how that client should use it on their website or in their social media, how it should be tagged. I don't do social media. I do have other connections. If someone is looking for social media, I work with many people who do that, work very well with them. But when I went out on my own to become a solopreneur, I decided, let me stick with what I love best. And media relations, pitch and place, getting that coverage for the client, that's what I love best. So I narrowed down my focus. And So far, so good. It's been a great experience. I can't believe it took me this long to become an entrepreneur.
Well, Andrea, this is an amazing story and very, very inspirational for other people desiring to go out on their own and become successful. I think one of your keys to success, like you mentioned, is you're staying in your lane. You're not doing everything. You're a specialist, and you're a specialist in getting great public relations for your clients. And if it falls outside of your expertise, then you bring in other experts to help your clients with those needs. Is that correct?
And you've hit the nail on the head, because I think that I was having this conversation the other day with a friend. Like, if you broke your toe, you wouldn't necessarily try to fix it yourself. You're going to make sure you go to a podiatrist so you haven't damaged your whole foot. And if it has to be set the right way, the podiatrist will do that. Or if you have a legal issue, you're going to go to a lawyer. And if you're looking for public relations, you need to go to a professional public relations person or agency, because you're not going to know how to do it. And I think the one mistake that individuals make when they think they can do their own PR is they hound the press person. And they get on their nerves. Here's the story, you got to do the story, leaving a message, sending an email. Whoa, back off. That journalist is not going to want to work with you. That journalist will want you to, if they're interested, they might even send an email interview. That's become very, very popular. Email interviews, tremendously popular. So it's really know the rules, but yes, stay in your lane. I stay in my lane. I do press, I do media relations, I offer media training, which falls along those lines. I will hear about speaking engagements or speaking opportunities, share that with a client. I'll hear about award competitions that might be relevant to that client and say, hey, had you thought about entering this award competition? And I'll help you if you want to. Trade show support. Our fingers are crossed that one day trade shows will come back into being. They won't ever be the same as they have been. I remember the days of going to Chicago for the houseware show and going to Las Vegas for the hardware show, and thousands and thousands and thousands of people smushed into an environment. Toy Fair at the Javits Center in New York. It'll all be changing, but I've always secured press coverage at those trade shows. So now there will be a new way to secure press coverage through trade shows. So I offer all of these things, but the bottom line is they all lead to coverage, press coverage.
And that's what you do. You're the public relations queen, I'm going to call you right now.
Oh, thank you. No, I love public relations, always have. And someone said, why do you do what you do? Well, I love what I do.
Well, you can tell that you do. I have one final question, because you started your own operation, your own business as an entrepreneur a few years ago, and you've become immensely successful, and congratulations. For those people that are thinking about opening their own business like you did, whatever the business may be, could you just share sort of maybe some inspiration for them, or some type of motivational idea that they can think about so that they can take that action step that you did to put themselves on the road to the same type of success that you've been able to attain?
Learn something new every day. Get started, have structure. From the day that I started my own business, I had my structure. Before this time, I was up at 20 after 5 in the morning. I was at the gym by 5:30 in the morning. I was home, showered, breakfast, and working around 7:30 in the morning, some days 7:45. But I had a structure. I had a structure that even though I have a home-based office, I got dressed up, hair, makeup, jewelry, dress, whatever, all every day, except Fridays. I would take a little break and do my dress down Fridays, but have a structure and know what you want to accomplish, and know that you aren't going to accomplish all of that in one day. It's okay. But also recognize that you should not be working 24/7. You will burn out. So differentiate between your work day and your personal day. And there are sometimes they get a little longer. I ended up having a business call the other night at 9 o'clock, which just was crazy, but it was someone I needed to talk to. And both of us were laughing that we were both so tired. But when she says, can you call me now? I'm like, yes. because we wanted to get the conversation out of the way. But take that time, take a day off and go for a bike ride or go for a walk or sit in your backyard and read a book. But when it's work, focus on your business. Go to networking events. Zoom networking events are so popular. I'm on so many different networking groups. I've met such fascinating people and some who might even become clients of mine. And I've offered insights. So take the time, know you're going to network and know you're going to work on your business, but your business will also require not only a time, energy into it, but a financial commitment into it. So it takes money to make money. So you have to know as you start out in your business that these things will occur, whether you're making sure you have an LLC, you have insurance for your business. In my case, I spend a lot of money subscribing to databases and services that I need for public relations. So whatever you're doing, make sure you recognize you're going to have to spend money, but meet others and turn to others for advice, because you're going to constantly be educated and they'll be able to help you.
That's awesome. And I think it's very apparent by the people watching this and hearing you speak, Andrea, that when a company hires Andrea Pass, they're just not getting a PR expert or a public relations expert. They're getting someone with a vast array of experiences, a lot of wisdom, both in business and outside of business. And that's a full package, because people that hire you, they probably need more than just public relations. They need the complete package with your wealth of experience that comes as sort of a value add. And I can see why you've become a very hot commodity in the public relations space, Andrea. And I wanted to thank you so much for coming on and talking about public relations. And for those people that want to contact you, let's give them the proverbial ways to contact you. And again, it's just such a delight to have you on the show today.
Thank you, Andy. I appreciate it. If any of your viewers and listeners want to reach out and have a conversation, Andrea at AndreaPassPR.com. My website, which is under construction, I'm doing a little work on it, but it's AndreaPassPR.com. And my Facebook page, Andrea Pass Public Relations on Facebook. So you can reach out a number of different ways, and certainly if they couldn't get that down, they could reach out to you, and I'm sure you'd be kind enough to forward their information. But it's worth a conversation to see, are you ready for public relations? And do you have enough meat for a story in public relations? So I hope that the match could be between your viewers and Andrea Pass Public Relations. So I'm glad we had a chance to spend some time today.
That's most awesome. And let's make a match, and you be healthy and take care. And thank you so much for helping all the businesses out there who are using your service. Thanks again, Andrea.
Thank you. Have a great day.